This is Lee Child, and I'm listening to the Reading and Writing Podcast.
Welcome to the 11th episode of the Reading and Writing Podcast. Today, my guest is Lee Child, New York Times bestselling author of 13 suspense novels, all featuring the character Jack Reacher. If you haven't read a Lee Child novel, I definitely recommend that you do yourself a favor and check them out. They're some of the best thrillers and suspense novels available. So, without further ado, here's my interview with Lee Child. So I'm here at Thriller Fest in New York City on July 10th speaking with Lee Child, best-selling writer and author of 13 novels featuring the character Jack Reacher. Thanks for joining us, Lee.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sure. Thanks a lot. Well, the first question I think is probably pretty obvious. How do you like your coffee?
I like coffee black, hot and strong.
Great. Well, you've written many novels, 13, featuring Jack Reacher. I wonder if you, at this point, have ever considered writing about another character, or do you just not want to jinx what's going good?
You know, I think it would make no sense to do another character because from a commercial point of view, we've put a lot of effort into branding what we're doing, so why move away just when it's beginning to get successful? And from a literary point of view, I can see if you've somehow got yourself down a blind alley, you might want to readjust by moving to a different character or a different series, but I was always happy with Reacher from the start, and so I don't see any reason for stopping.
Sure. Your background originally is in television. I wonder if you could just give a quick synopsis about your path to publication.
Well, I lost that job in television. I was fired because of corporate restructuring, and so it was a question for me of about halfway through my working life, how could I stay in the world of entertainment without actually having a proper job? And so writing seemed to be the obvious way to do it.
And you've had lots of success, needless to say.
Happily, yeah, it's been a good ride.
Great. I wonder what the writing process is like for you. Do you tend to sit down and write an outline prior to writing the first sentence, or do you kind of see where it takes you?
Yeah, I must see where it takes me personally. I never have a plan, never have an outline. I usually have a first paragraph in mind and some kind of a thing in mind. Maybe the thing could be as little as a crucial line of dialogue for later in the book. But as I just start and I see where it takes me.
And given that you work that way, have you ever had a situation where you kind of, for the lack of a better word, written yourself into a corner and have to throw things out, or does it usually tend to work pretty well for you?
Well, there's two ways of dealing with that. One is that if you are writing yourself down a blind alley, just make your hero work harder to get himself out. You know, life is not supposed to be easy. But the other answer is I've got a pretty good detector for blind alleys, and so I've never had to throw away more than, half a dozen words. I can just sort of tell when it's heading wrong.
Great. And I wonder what kind of advice you would give for someone who's an aspiring writer who may be interested in writing thrillers or some type of other fiction.
My advice is ignore all advice, which sounds counterintuitive, but really it's very important because a book will only stand a chance if it's a living, breathing, organic, vivid product with some integrity of its own. And the only way to do that is for it to be wholly, 100% the product of one imagination, one desire. If you start doing it by committee, if you start saying, well, this is really what I want to do, but the Lee Child books are different than that, and Stephen King says you should do it this way, and somebody else says you should do it that way, then you end up with a dead product.
Great. And I wonder for you, do you ever worry that with the Jack Reacher character that there's almost kind of a Superman element? You've taken him through 13 novels. Not that I don't enjoy the novels. I'm just wondering, do you ever to think about how can I write this so that it's suspenseful for the reader?
I think that all entertainment, really all spectator issues involve superhuman performance. We don't go to the ballpark to see average and competent players, unless you're a Mets fan. You go to see the greatest, the experts. And it's the same really in any kind of a book. Reacher is a physical Superman in a sense. Yes, he is. But then you read a John Grisham novel, you've got some young kid just graduated from law school takes down 2 insurance companies. That's a superhuman performance. That's what we respond to. We love superhuman performances.
Sure. So you're here at Thriller Fest this weekend. What are you doing at Thriller Fest, and what do you think about the Thriller Writers Organization?
It's a great organization. I mean, it's almost it's almost too big for its own good. I mean, we've got hundreds of members with literally billions of books in print or sold, and amazing, huge names, big careers, big achievements, and it's in a way odd that we've never got together before. And so when something like this does happen, it's just a great weekend. I'm here to do panels, interviews, catch up with friends, have dinner. It's just partly work and partly social for me.
Sure. I wonder, speaking of thrillers, what do you think the continuing appeal is to readers to read thrillers, or conversely to go to a movie that could be classified as a thriller?
Because I think it's a very ancient desire deep in our brain from hundreds of thousands of years ago to be put through that emotional journey of danger, peril, real bad situation, knowing that it's going to turn out all right. I think that's the power of story, that you can live through the danger and the peril knowing that it's going to turn out all right in the end. And in a way that reassures us, it helps us, it makes us feel that we can approach things in real life because, things can turn out okay.
Great. One other question. You're originally from Britain, obviously, and yet the Reacher books are set in the U.S., and if I'm not mistaken, you do live in New York City. I wondered, do you feel, given your background, especially with the earlier books, that you had to do additional research to make them seem authentic?
Not really, because actually America does not go to great lengths to conceal its culture. It's worldwide.
That's certainly true.
America promotes itself very effectively around the world. Citizens of the world have a pretty good idea of what America's like. It's not a hidden mystery. And so there wasn't that much more research to do than if it had been said anywhere.
Great. And I also know that in the first several books that you referenced blues music, and I wondered if you're an aficionado and fan yourself.
I am, absolutely, yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
If you'd like to learn more about Lee Child, you can check out his website at www.leechild.com, where you can find out more information about all of his novels and also register for the Reacher Report, his email newsletter. Thanks for listening to the Reading and Writing Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my latest interview. If you would like to leave me some feedback or have a comment on the show, I would love to get your voicemail. You can leave me a voicemail at 206-888-2731. Again, that's 206-888-2731. Also, if you enjoyed listening to this interview, you can subscribe to the feed for the podcast in iTunes. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love for you to leave me a comment in iTunes so that other people can discover the podcast in the iTunes store. It's very simple. You go to the iTunes store and leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another interview with a writer that you enjoy reading.
This is Kevin J. Anderson, and whenever I'm not reading or writing, I enjoy listening to the Reading and Writing Podcast.